Good morning. If I could have everyone's attention, please. Thank you for being here on Veterans Day. My name is Dick Pastor. I'm the commander of Westwood American Legion Post 320. And again, I thank you all for being here today. We have here this morning Paul McMurtry, our representative, our select board, Nancy Hyde, Mike Walsh, John Hickey. We also have Mike Gillette, the town administrator. Mike is retiring, so I thank him very much for being here today. So before we begin, if you would all please join me in Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The chaplain would please approach and offer prayer.
Right here.
It's right here.
I have to get rid of my rifle before I came here. O God of hosts, we bow our heads in thankfulness for the victories thou hast granted to us. To us and to those people who have united us to stamp out the evils of aggression, intolerance, and greed. We beseech thee to bring the blessings of understandings to the families and friends in this and other lands of those who have given their lives that men may be free, men and women. Grant, O God, that those closest to the fallen may mingle the pain of their losses with the ennobling light of sacrifice for civilization, sacrifice for a better world for this and other generations yet unborn. Grant us too, O God, the courage to so live with the family of nations around the world that the end of strife will be the beginning of enduring peace. Grant us patience in planning with our fellow men and women a world in which nations may resolve their differences by peaceful means. Touch thou the souls of people in every land with the enduring light of wisdom so that they may form a brotherhood which will strive to further the acts of peace under laws and ethics blessed by thy love. Grant us now thy continued blessing upon unity and strength that makes victories possible in war, that we may win greater victories of peace. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks.
Thank you. We're here today on Veterans Day to remember our living veterans and their service to our country. I would ask Paul McMurtry to offer a few words at this point.
Thank you. Thank you, Commander. Good morning. On this Veterans Day, we come together as a grateful community, commonwealth, and nation to commemorate the service and sacrifice of those who have proudly worn the uniform of our country. I'm pleased to join you and the members of our Select Board, Chair Walsh, Chair Hyde, Member Walsh, and Member Hickey, as all of us come together as indebted citizens to say thank you to those who have fulfilled their honorable duty to maintain the freedoms of our nation. We assemble freely to fulfill a collective public obligation of gratitude. As humble citizens, each of us embraces our responsibility to honor our veterans and to ensure they receive the sincere appreciation, and for us as a Commonwealth to provide the benefits and services they have valiantly earned and deserve. I'm proud to say that Massachusetts has long been a leader in supporting veterans through comprehensive public policy, and I remain committed in my service as state representative to continue that legacy. Today, we pause to honor and commend those who put their lives on hold. We are also mindful of those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Here in the town of Westwood and at ceremonies across our great nation, we have a chance to stand among the bravest, those whose love and loyalty to our country serve as a shining example of patriotism and citizenship. Today, we recognize that each of us owe our veterans a debt we can never fully repay. We honor our veterans not only in our words, but our actions. Let each of us now renew our commitment to veterans and continue to demonstrate the respect and our appreciation we have for their service. To all the veterans of Westwood, to the over 320,000 veterans of the Commonwealth, to the veterans across our country, and to all those in harm's way currently serving around the world, we say thank you. Thank you today, tomorrow, and always. God bless our veterans. God bless the citizens of the town of Westwood, and may God bless America.
Thank you, Paul. I'd like to ask our chairperson, Nancy Hyde, to offer a few thoughts.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you here on behalf of the Westwood Select Board. I just want to make a couple of observations today. First, I want to start off by thanking Richard Pastor, the commander of the American Legion, and the other representatives of the American Legion here today. Each year you come out both to this and Memorial Day, and it's really an honor to be with you and to support what you do for veterans in this community. One other observation I want to make is that this lovely park, the Veterans Park, hasn't been here for terribly long. It's feeling like a long time now, but it used to be further down High Street. And I really think this location gives it a place of prominence that it deserves, and it's really touching to see people come here and just rest here sometimes on the benches. And I think it's a really appropriate tribute. And as many of you can see, the bricks here reflect the names of people who have served our country. And for that, this is really a very solemn place and a very important place. I did a little homework before I came here today because it strikes me that here we are on the cusp of the next decade. And it's going to be a decade where the vivid memories of people who served in World War II will virtually disappear with the loss of anybody who served during that war. So here are some statistics. There were over 16 million people who represented the United States representing our country in World War II, 16 million. Today, less than 400,000 of those people are still alive, and we lose 300 to 400 of them every day. It will not be long before these great people will no longer grace our lives. As the daughter-in-law to somebody who was a general in World War II and seeing the loss of his friends, it's very touching when you think about these people, what a great generation they were. And my father-in-law is now 96 years old, and he's planning his 100th birthday. So good for him. But for all of you who served either in the World War II, I'm not sure if any of you are here today, but for whatever war you served in, it is truly an honor to thank you. Thank you on behalf of the town, of the residents of the town, and to you and all other veterans. We owe a deep debt of gratitude, and we're very happy to have you here with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. On behalf of the Westwood American Legion, we'd like to offer our thanks very much to our selectmen for all the support that they show veterans and the American Legion. Before we begin the ceremony, I'd like to offer some thoughts. Camaraderie, war ethos, esprit de corps, all words we can use to describe what it means to be a veteran and to have served in our nation's military. In each other we find community. We find it at the American Legion posts. We find it in the familiar decal on the rear window of a passing car. We often see it in ourselves and in one another. When news got out recently that a Vietnam War veteran had no living relatives to attend his funeral, the veteran community was there. Friends of Wayne Wilson put out a call for people to come to his burial service at Silverbrook Cemetery in Niles, Michigan. They expected only a handful of people. They underestimated the power of the American Legion. 3,000 people showed up to pay their respects. American Legion Post 51's Sergeant-at-Arms Richard Stewart said, quote, "None of us figured that it would be as big as it was. Every veteran has the right to have a funeral like this," end quote. Closer to home, that happened this past weekend in Needham, when the remains of a World War II vet was repatriated and buried in Needham. As veterans, we're acutely aware of the sacrifices made by our service members. We are equally aware of the cost of those sacrifices. We know the value in the lessons that our military service bestowed upon us. These are things that we cannot afford to lose to time. By virtue of your attendance here today, it is clear that you hold our nation's veterans in high esteem. But how many of their stories do we all truly know? Every single woman and man who raised their right hand and pledged to give their life for their country, if needed, did so for a reason. Ask them why. These stories and memories of ours are powerful. They are one of the most powerful weapons in securing a future for those who will follow us. Because if they don't understand the sacrifice our service members made to fight evil and preserve freedom throughout the world, they may not understand the greatness of this country. American Legion National Commander Bill Oxford calls upon us to build a foundation for the future. Sharing the stories of our heroes and their contributions to freedom is part of that future. The American Legion knows these stories well. These stories arose from the war to end all wars, the First World War. For the past 100 years, the American Legion has been dedicated to serving those who have served. The commitment to caring for America's veterans is one that transcends partisanship. It is a commitment that covers all races, all genders, and all faiths. The American Legion knows that service does not stop when the uniform comes off. As we honor our nation's living veterans today, it is fitting to bring to mind a piece of wisdom from the Iraq War's first Medal of Honor recipient, Staff Sergeant David Belavia, who said, quote, "All throughout our history, we have had people that have dissented, that have disagreed, and we've found ways to put everything aside and focus on what's best for this nation, what's best for mission success," unquote. So to those who came before me, to those whom I had the privilege to serve with, and to those who have followed, on this day as we honor those who have worn our nation's uniform, thank you all for your service. Thank you all for being here today. God bless the United States. Thank you. I'm going to invite Comrade Simeon to return to the podium. And assist me in the ceremony. On this day, Veterans Day, we are commemorating the service of veterans of all wars. We remember how men and women set aside their civilian pursuits to serve their nation's cause, defending the freedom of mankind and preserving our precious American heritage. We believe our strength on the field of battle, on the supply lines which nourished our armed might, lay in the justice of our cause against the forces of evil. We believe our determination made us better warriors because we fought with our minds and our hearts as well as our bodies. We recognize service to our country and her cause does not end with the termination of military service. We continue our endeavors on behalf of an honorable world peace with a feeling of profound gratitude to God and to the men and women who gave their lives as their part of the cost of the noblest of causes. Our blood and sweat, we learned of purpose, sacrifice, tolerance, bravery, and discipline. These are solid foundation stones upon which a great nation is built. In our continuing quest for an honorable world peace, we must cultivate these virtues.
Thank you. I want to thank the commander for all he said and for my personal life before I become the third officer, according to this. I entered the Navy in 1966, 100 years ago, and I ended it in Desert Storm a long time ago already now. And I want to thank everyone who, personally, who served in that period. And especially, I know there's one person in the audience that served with me at Desert Storm, and I want to thank him for the comradeship that he showed Thank you, Will, so much. War has taught us the lesson of obedience to command. The game is more than the player, and the ship is more than the crew. There is greater discipline we must now pursue if we are to preserve this virtue of obedience in our quest for an honorable world peace. That is obedience to the laws we ourselves make, the voluntary discipline of citizenship. Under our system of government, we may change the laws by majority rule. We may persuade our neighbors to new theories or new courses. We may advocate in free elections the choice of veterans or plans. As good citizens, we follow the choice of the majority, whether that choice be the individuals or not. This is the virtue of discipline which must be ours in peace. This is the lesson we must learn at home, in school, on the playing fields, in organizations, in the community, and the nation. It is a lesson of voluntary obedience to the decisions of the majority. We must not be we must not be unmindful either of the conclusions of other peoples with whom we have joined in the quest for an honorable world peace. This is the higher order of disciplines. Thank you all.
In time of peace, we can use the ennobling virtues of war and put behind us its ugliness and suffering. In peace, we shall go forward together to scale new heights of achievements in unity of purpose, in sacrifice for the common good, in tolerance for those of different faiths and creeds, in bravery to fight for social and economic gains, and in the discipline of good citizenship. We shall move forward in the sight of God as a strong nation in a peaceful world. Color Guard will now fire a 3-round volley. Thank you. This concludes our Veterans Day ceremony. I'd like to, for those of you who are veterans but not members of the American Legion, I'd like to remind you that Congress changed our enabling Constitution so that every veteran who has served since Pearl Harbor is now eligible to join the American Legion. We have nearly 2 million members across the country. We're the largest veterans organization in the United States, and it's the reason why our national commander gets to meet with the president every year and is invited to testify before Congress. Please add your voice on behalf of veterans and join the American Legion. Thank you very much for being here. God bless.